So I've been thinking of putting up this video for a while now. So this has something to do with holding off on wind calls and a bad habit that I've discovered early on and corrected myself while I was still starting. Now you can absolutely dial in your wind, and I'm not saying one way is better than the other, but I find it more effective for me to hold off, especially on long range shots. My opinion on the matter is I don't want to spend a second or two dialing in wind when the actual wind downrange suddenly changes and now my call is different and it'll cause me to miss. Now I know the term long range is subjective because it's different for everybody, but for now we'll just use 1000 yards as an example. A target at 1000 yards should give us enough resolution to consider our three types of shooters: the beginner, the intermediate, and the experienced or advanced. Now, if you've ever seen or attended a long-range precision basic class, you would know that a beginner shooter or new shooter would be able to hit 1000 yards on day one with the guidance of their instructors. Now, the intermediate shooters should be able to hit that without being coached, but then again, there's the challenge of the wind. You'd be surprised even advanced shooters sometimes will miss that target for various reasons. They were under pressure, people are watching, bad trigger pull, poor follow through, etc., etc. So I've developed this habit of taking a Kestrel with me when I'm walking outside and measuring random wind. And every time I do so, I pay attention to the environment, more especially the branches of the trees around me. This way I can relate what it's doing, how much it's swaying from one way or the other, in relation to the actual wind speed that I'm getting from my wind meter. This allows me an opportunity to save that mental picture in my head. This way, when I'm out in the range again and I'm looking through the scope, I can kind of guess closer on what the wind was doing downrange and make a better wind call all in all. Now, unless you're one of the demigods of wind reading like Emil Preslik, and I certainly am not one, I rely on a Kestrel because it gives me that opportunity to get a good reading at my position. This way, when I look at the scope downrange, I can compare what's doing here to what I see downrange and make an accurate or at least a better wind call for my shot. Now here's the scenario. We're at the range aiming at a 1 minute of an angle target at 1000 yards. Now for all intents and purposes, like I said, this is just our scenario. We are getting a steady constant 4 to 6 mile per hour wind left to right. That would be from the 9 o'clock heading towards 3 o'clock. So for a visual of our scenario, at our position we have already measured with our wind meter an accurate reading of left to right 4 to 6 mile per hour wind. As you've seen, the range we used in our scenario are covered on both sides by trees. So at this time you're looking at mid-range at about 500 yards, either by a spotting scope or your own rifle scope, and by practice you could tell the sway of the trees are still left to right wind 4 to 6 mile per hour. Now, this is where practicing with Kestrel as you walk outside every now and then comes into play, like I've said earlier. Now you've established that mid-range at 500 yards, by the look of the sway of the trees, you still have the same direction and same speed. Now we're trying to guess what it's doing downrange, so we're looking past 800 yards closer to our target, and we can clearly assess that the trees are pretty much swaying in the same direction, and it's pretty much the same action. So we are assessing that it's still a 4 to 6 mile per hour wind left to right. Again, this is our scenario. It's a constant left to right 4 to 6 mile per hour wind from our position, middle position, and towards our target. So now our firing solution is showing us a 24.3 minutes of elevation and about 2.67 or 2.7 minutes left for windage. I believe that is about 7/10 of a mil for mil-based reticles. I'm not 100% sure, but close enough, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one. So let's say this reserve parking sign is our target down at 1000 yards, and it's about 14 inches high and 10 inches across. So the question is, and this is what I was referring to in the beginning, where do you put that wind hold from that firing solution? Do you place that on the left edge, or do you place that on the center? If you don't pay enough attention to consider this, it can actually make the difference between a hit or a miss. Now, if you put that 2.7 minute hold on the left edge, you may barely hit the target or more than likely miss. And this is how it'll look like with a 7/10 hold, again on the left edge with a mil-based reticle. Now let's go ahead and see if we place that same 2.7 minute left wind hold in the actual place where it's supposed to be, which is the center. Now by doing this, you're kind of guaranteeing yourself or giving yourself enough space both to the left and right in case the bullet deviates a little bit, and you'd still actually make a hit. Now this is the same wind call for a mil-based reticle, which is again 7/10 of a mil left. And that is it. I hope you guys got something out of this very basic video, but nevertheless, you know how it is when it comes to our discipline. There's too many terminologies out there, everything going on in the range. It is just one of those small things you take for granted. And at least on my part, I've caught myself doing that before when I was just starting. It was definitely a bad habit that I needed to break. And I just wanted to share it to you guys. And if you have the same experience, please let me know. Or if you have any other aha moments that I could learn from, please do share them, as I would love to learn from you as well. Once again, thank you. I hope everything was clear. I hope my illustrations and the scenario was clear. And if you have any questions or corrections, please let me know.